Here's your man, Nick Scryer. Facial reconstruction and a memory wipe.
Intelligence has the movement attacking the refinery in about 90 hours.
This memory wipe will give us plenty of time to drop him in and get him past the movement's psi probes. Mindgate's specialty is psyops. They dismissed General Krieger, but Scryer stayed with Mindgate and took his psychic powers to a new level.
we wanted to have kind of a real-time video effects kind of processing, like kind of the effects you might see in a image editing program on a PC. So this is an embossing effect, and if you just hit the R1 button, you cycle through all the different effects, or you can just let them cycle through on their own over time, and they'll do that. This is kind of a color tracking one. And if I tell it to track this color like I have before, then you see little sparkles coming out of the color, and actually that paints in the color of the scene. So I can kind of bring the color of the backdrop in by just painting it with that object I'm tracking. And it's actually the little sparkles that are doing the painting. So if I clear it back to gray, you can see wherever the sparkles are, that actually is what's painting the scene. It's kind of like a spray brush or something. So this is a color quantization effect to give you kind of an oil painting effect. It's hard to do on video because you get that kind of shimmer. This is a kind of a weird black light filter, which leaves certain colors one color and leaves certain colors longer. Just gives you kind of a nightclub feel or something. This is just a blur effect to give you kind of a very blurry image. This is a edge detection effect, so you can just see the edges in the scene highlighted. This is another kind of an edge detection effect. Gives you kind of a weird, almost woodblock filter. This is a background subtraction effect, so if I step off the camera again, take a picture, pushing the L1 button as before, now I have this kind of subtraction of the live video from this snapshot. And that's why you can see just me kind of highlighted. And with that, you can do these kind of fake green screen effect. It's hard to do in this kind of low light situation here, but let me try that again with picture. Not going to get a good enough picture here. And with that, though, you can do target tracking. So you can see it's kind of putting a crosshairs on me. So that's how we can do some tracking if we would want. You can also do motion blur, like is in the Kung Fu game already. And with the motion blur and the color quantization mixed together, you get this kind of color bleed effect where it just looks like the colors of my body bleed from one place to the next, which is kind of a neat effect. This is a spider's effect. So these little spiders just kind of bounce around moving, and they stick to my face. So if I move my hand up here and wipe them off, now they're stuck to my hands. And I move them around. You can kind of, this is a fun one to do. You can push them onto your friend and leave them down there. One of my favorite things to do with this one is to get them on my face and then come up real close. Get a kind of crazy effect. So this is the raw chrominance output of the camera. You can see it's kind of blocky because the video has to be compressed on the camera. And this is the other chrominance, again blocky and grainy because of being compressed on the camera. This is kind of a weird like liquidy filter that we made. It just when you move past stuff, it looks kind of liquidy as you go past something. These are all just neat effects for no real purpose whatsoever. And this one, let me take that picture again. See, this is kind of like a hollow filter. I look hollow inside. So maybe we'll cut that one. One other thing that you can do, we can show with this, is that the video is actually just a texture to the PlayStation. So we can actually do anything we want with that video. So I can take that video and put it on lots of different polygons and move it all sorts of crazy ways. And I can even drive through it and get all these kind of weird tunnel effects. And again, it's just a texture. You could have it on thousands of different polygons in your game if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. So this is a demonstration of a magic wand game. And again, it uses color tracking and also motion detection and gesture recognition. So the first thing I have to do is tell it which color I want it to track. And I want it to track the color of my wand. You can use any kind of bright colored object you might have in your house. And the one we're going to use is this ball. A ball would work best. So a tennis ball or something like that might work. So what you have to do is you have to hold the ball in the very center and push the X button. And you'll see the circle. And you want to fill your colored object up inside the circle there. And then let go. And now it's going to track that colored object. So when I twiddle my fingers over the object, it kind of activates it. That's the activation of the magic. And then when I draw a shape with it, one of the PlayStation symbols, that's going to recognize the gesture of what spell I want it to cast. So if I do a circle, fire. That's the fire spells. So then I can cast the magic fireball spell. And I can shoot it out of my wand here. So we have a lot of different gestures. So if I twiddle my fingers again to activate it, then I draw a square this time. I get the air spells this time. So you can cast a spell right away and I get the tornado spell, or I can wait and let it get more power and then I'll get the hurricane spell. So here's hurricane. You can see it kind of mixes the graphics and the video together here. You get the kind of movie special effects. And one of the neat things is when we first demonstrated this, we had two PlayStations hooked together and we were dueling each other. So I'd cast a spell at somebody and they'd cast a spell back at me. And they'd see the spell effect on me and I'd see the spell effect on them. And we did it over the network. So one of the other controls you have to do on this demonstration is if you step off camera and take a picture of the scene without you in it, like this, by pressing the L1 button, then it takes a snapshot of the background. And then with that, you can do all sorts of neat special movie kind of effects. So one of the secret shapes we had in the game was this kind of upside down triangle. Let's see if I can get this upside down triangle drawn here. That's the mind spells. And if I cast a spell, then I go invisible. You can see I can kind of fade it right out. And I'm kind of only partially visible here. And that's done because we have this backdrop picture of me, of the room without me. And like I said, when we demonstrated this the first time, we had a counter spell for every spell. So if somebody cast invisibility on themselves, you could counter that with the true sight spell. So I'd cast the true sight spell, and then I'd get my little eyeball that would bring him out, and then I could see. So for the tech demos, a lot of the time we don't have very many art resources, so a lot of it has to be programmer art. So we do lots of spells that are kind of programmer arty, like the California spell, as we call it, or earthquake. Not a whole lot of artwork needed here. And I also try to do as many kind of spell effects as I can that just use image processing. So then one of the other fire spells, if you wait and let it build up more power, you'll get the scorch spell instead of the fireball spell. And that's kind of like this. It's kind of cool fire effect. And there's all the PlayStation symbols, and there's also some secret symbols I'll let you try to find. And again, that's showing color tracking, motion detection, and gesture recognition all in kind of one big demo together.
If you've been paying attention to the latest trends in gaming, then you've already heard of the iToy. It takes the controller out of your hands and puts you into the TV set. This gaming device was developed by Sony Computer Entertainment's London studio and Dr. Richard Marks, and is constantly evolving and changing the way people play games.
The inspiration behind the creation of iToy was to make games more interactive and open to a wider audience. So by the iToy controller, you can just use your body as the interface. It's so easy to play. Kids and their parents and even grandparents like to try it. They're not inhibited by the complex controller and not understanding what they're supposed to do. Everyone's kind of on an equal playing field. My background is in computer vision and image processing, and it's really neat to be able to see this kind of technology applied in a completely new game interface domain. So here's Hurricane. You can see it kind of mixes the graphics.
The future success of iToy is tied to expanding our ideas of what a game interface can do.
We really see the iToy as a kind of extension of the PlayStation platform in the long run. It's really an example of a path we're on to really see a new kind of interface evolve for gaming. Gestural recognition, facial recognition, tracking of your body, all these kind of things are going to be part of the future of games.
To give developers a sneak peek of what the future holds, researchers create technical demonstrations or tech demos.
A tech demo is just a small PlayStation program authored by people in our research group. It's like a small game. We just want to create an experience and see how that feels and what it's like. The tech demos aren't quite as flashy or graphics-wise as most games are because we don't have the time or resources to devote to that. But they usually have kind of one core idea that really shows something we think would be a great game idea. So we try to show our tech demos as much as possible to the game developers and inspire them to make real games around ideas that we try to mock up. In our lab already we have tons of different tech demos that show kind of different things you could do with iToy. For example, a wand-based game where you move a magic wand to cast magic spells. If I cast a spell, then I go invisible. See, I can hide. We have a virtual pet game where you move these colored balls around and a virtual pet comes and lands on the balls and you can interact with them that way. We have a game that's a photo editing tool that uses our clam interface. We have real-time image filtering, that, like many kinds of image processing programs people have tried out for photos. We can do that in real time and do it with live video. These are all things that people have never seen in the public, and I'm really hoping that the developers really kind of step up and pick up some of these ideas and make great games out of them the way that current developers made great games that are out there now.
One of those great games that utilizes this technology is the iToy Groove, a dancing game that plays to a different beat.
The dancing experience with iToy Groove really is a lot different from a lot of other dancing games out there. You actually see yourself on the TV now. The iToy USB camera puts you on the TV. It also tracks your body movement, and it offers a different level of gameplay than simply just pressing buttons. You know, you have artists like Madonna, Jamiroquai, Fatboy Slim. You also have classic artists such as Kool and the Gang and the Village People. So there's really a broad range there that should appeal to everybody.
So there's tons of great music, but how does dancing become a game?
The iToy experience for iToy Groove extends beyond just simply button presses. It really requires you to move your body, and the more you move, the more points you get. You would try to touch these targets that fly out from the center to these different target areas, and depending upon when you hit it, you get more points for it. The challenges are a lot more sophisticated than any other dancing game can offer. And that's just the single player experience. There's a multiplayer experience which is huge also. iToy Groove actually allows you to play at the same exact time. So you can either play together and try to finish the round, or it can also allow you to play against each other as well. So you would be able to battle your opponent trying to see who can dance the best, and it really encourages people in the audience now to get up and play with you as opposed to just watching. What the developers done also, they've incorporated a dynamic mode, which basically monitors how well you play, and it adjusts the difficulty as you play on the fly. So the better you are, the harder it gets. iToy Groove really is much different, much more immersive dancing game experience. So when you think iToy Groove, you think great music, great dancing, and just a great iToy experience.
If you want to be one of the few to actually test drive the next generation of iToy experiences, check out the tech demos included on this disc, and keep an eye out for iToy Groove. The PlayStation Underground is out on the town in Tempe, Arizona. We've tracked down a man of many talents and interests. He's a rock and roller with a streak of geek in him. We present Robin Wilson of the Gin Blossoms, a not-so-typical lead singer of a rock and roll band.
My hobbies include video games and comic books, and I collect action figures, and run a recording studio. That's a pretty big hobby. I have several hundred action figures, a lot of Batman villains and stuff from McFarlane Toys, and a lot of stuff comic book related, like old Spider-Man figures. And then I also collect lunchboxes. I have about 150 vintage metal lunchboxes.
All of these hobbies and collections may be interesting, but Robin's #1 hobby is, of course, video gaming.
I've been playing video games since I worked at an arcade in the early 1980s. I've had pretty much all the major console systems, but PS2 is the only one I have right now, and I really love the machine and I love the games. I take the thing everywhere with me. I travel with it all over the States, so it's my main hobby. Ever since having a baby, I only have time for one hobby, and it's video games. My favorite PlayStation 2 games include Metal Gear Solid, War of the Monsters, Ratchet & Clank, Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit 2, and Midnight Club 2. Recently, I've been playing Soul Calibur, and Ico, and Music Maker.
Nothing too odd with those choices, but what makes Robin different is where he plays these games. This guy's a true wandering minstrel.
Since the summer of '92, I've done about 300 dates on the road, and I've had my PlayStation with me in at least 100 different hotels, a bunch of different buses. I played in the dressing room, take it to my wife's aunt's house. The best advice I can share with a with the gaming audience is if you're going to travel with your PlayStation, bring an extension cord, an RF adapter and AV cables, and then you're going to need some tip money for the hotel engineer.
The Gin Blossoms hit Hey Jealousy is already included in Konami's Karaoke Revolution, so we asked Robin what ideas would go into his version of a touring rock and roll band's video game.
If there was a Gin Blossoms Robin Wilson video game, the overall object of the game would be to play as many county fairs as you can in 1 month and to keep the band from breaking up. And actually that would be the title of the game too, Gin Blossoms: Keep the Band from Breaking Up.
While he was trying to keep things together, we asked Robin to compare two of his major interests.
I guess there are probably a bunch of parallels between the gaming industry and the music industry. Certainly, I'm a fan of some of these creators and these publishers in the same way that in music you buy records when you like certain groups. But, you know, everybody finds something different to get geeked out about. And just since I'm a professional musician, it's hard for me to get geeked out about music like I used to be when I was much younger. So for me, I get my yayas out with video games.
Anytime you're ready.
So what exactly makes a cool GT4 ride? Well, the PlayStation Underground spent an afternoon with Cameron Evans, one of the auto industry judges from the GT4 Awards panel and host of Hot Rodding TV. We followed Cameron as he walked the floor of the Specialty Equipment Market Association's annual SEMA Auto Show in Las Vegas and shared his expert insights to get an in-depth look at what goes into choosing an award-winning car.
This show is absolutely huge, but finally we found our first car. It's Mark Kroll's Z28. It's a convertible, it's in the Holly booth. This thing goes as fast as it looks. Now 20-inch wheels on one of these cars is not that easy to do. This car's got to be tough. There's no way you can get that much wheel inside one of these cars. When you look, big guys, you wouldn't think that your legs are going to get in the way. With this thing, it's got a flat steering wheel, so that way when you turn the wheel to the left, hey, it will clear your legs. You know, an interesting angle to GT4 that no one's ever thought about is all the pre-runner cars from Southern California. Couldn't they work well on a rally course? I think they could. Check out this Ranger. This thing would, yeah, it rides a little high, but this could be pretty fun to drive. You know this truck's tall when a guy that's 6'5" has to get on his toes to be able to look under the hood. This thing's got some ride height. Sex on wheels is a pretty good term for it.
You know, it's over 700 horsepower, 2,000 pounds, ground effects. To drive this car, it just takes your breath away.
Yeah, just like an old shoe. This works. Sports car fans will remember there was a little bubble over the hood on one of these cars for the tallest driver ever. A lot of people don't think of Saturn in performance, but when you look at a car like this, you see that the aftermarket is actually taking to these cars very well. It's got some of the little performance items that kids can actually do. This car is very realistic when it comes time to repeat this. It's also got a turbo kit, which you don't see too often on Saturns. Now, tell me a little bit about the actual modifications to this car beyond what you can see with the naked eye.
Okay, well, Good Performance has turbocharged it. That's what all these pipings are for. Adds about 85 horsepower to the wheels, bolts direct onto a stock motor. There's also upgrades, camshafts for it, which add about 15 horsepower to the wheels. Throttle body upgrade, and then there's also headers for it. So it's a basic, easy bolt-on, ready-to-go kit.
You have the sensible Saturn.
Yes.
Hey, this thing could make it. This 62 Corvette is a perfect example of a hot rod for GT4. I mean, not only does it have the classic lines, it's got a little more wheel and tire, a little bit of suspension. It's got the upgrade you want, but the most important thing about this particular 62 Corvette is the ZZ430 engine. This engine is one of the most rare crate engines you can possibly buy from General Motors. To me, this is perfect for the hot rod category. Now, when you look at a title like Gran Turismo 4 and all the tuner cars that come from Japan, you haven't seen that many tuner cars that come from America. Roush is now in this game. They're building a 2004 Ford Focus directly from Roush Performance that you can order up just like this. This is a real GT4 car. One of the reasons people come to the SEMA show is to see the hottest cars built for the year. Now, this particular car belongs to Ted and Sue Richardson. It's a 62 Buick that's got all sorts of modifications to the point you can't even list them. This is a very valuable, expensive car, but it actually works very well. It makes a lot of power, makes a lot of grip, it handles very well. It's got giant bare brakes on it. They call it Buick. And you can see from under the hood. I mean, it's got a real Buick engine. These are some of the unique things that I'm looking for as I judge these cars, and they could very easily be made right into a car in Gran Turismo. As you can see, the SEMA show is absolutely giant. We've judged all sorts of different cars for Gran Turismo 4, but now we need to find out who the winner is. In fact, I've got to go, man. We got other cars to go see. We've got to make sure we come up with the winner. This could be one of them.
Just getting a spot at this year's SEMA convention in Las Vegas is an honor for the legions of car enthusiasts who will stop at nothing to modify and tune their cars into the ultimate individual expression of art and engineering. But what would happen if you took the third largest trade show in the world and combined it with the world's biggest auto racing franchise? You might just have a dream come true for one lucky car owner as Gran Turismo's creator Kazunori Yamauchi and a cast of expert judges handpicked 5 best-of-category cars from the show. This cream of the crop would then compete to see who would get to feature their dream machine as a playable car in the next installment of the world's best driving game, GT4.
The SEMA show is a gigantic show, but yet Gran Turismo is a gigantic franchise, and to have them come to the SEMA show and look for a car that they believe would be worthy of the game is incredibly flattering.
What I'm really looking for is the cars that will actually perform as good as they look. It's a matter of style, it's a matter of stance, but really it's a matter of performance. What are the quickest cars? Kind of a race me home scenario.
So I'm looking for something that you can actually drive. The tires don't rub, the chassis doesn't squeak, it makes good power, but it's not ridiculously loud or obnoxious. Supercharger is always a good choice. This one's intercooled, supercharged.
Excellent power, good handling, just a good overall balance of looks, performance, and just general attractiveness.
Well integrated, slick looking, a little attitude without craziness.
Something that gets my blood pumping, something that I would want to drive home.
So that's what it takes to make a winning car. Are there any specific attributes your car needs to take it to the next level? Namely becoming a playable in GT4?
Well, GT4 is all about fun, so a lot of good suspension and grip, because the vehicle can look great, but if it doesn't go fast and handle well and stop well, the people who are playing the game are not going to choose it.
To really win a place in a game like GT4, because the game is so far advanced, it's really a balance of engineering, the amount of tire that you can get under the fender wells, because you've got to have a car that can actually make some grip, and something that's light enough so that when you run it around the road course, it actually makes sense. Doing awards like this at the SEMA show so that we can get a car into GT4, you've got a chance to have all of your hard work actually show up in the game on screen, and this is something guys can play with for a long time. So as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the coolest things I've ever been involved with.
Why is the automotive industry taking such a keen interest in GT4 and aftermarket cars like those featured in the SEMA Auto Show?
Being in GT4, you know, that's like worldwide advertising. I mean, on probably the grandest scale.
The automotive industry really needs things like Gran Turismo 4 because it's hard to get new customers into this business. The kids can just as easily go snowboarding next year. By having titles like this, it actually keeps them involved. It makes people understand that this is fun stuff and it's something worth spending your money on.
Now you see cars brought to America specifically because the kids have been playing it on these video games. The whole WRC rally movement, the STI Subaru, the Mitsubishi Evolution 7, Evolution 8, and the kids demanded that these cars be brought to the States, and these manufacturers have done that. I've driven these cars, they're fantastic, and in a way I have GT4 to thank for this.
You've seen the competition, so now it's time to place your bets. Which of these modified supercars will get a chance to race in the world's greatest driving game and spark the creative imagination of a whole new generation of car lovers?
We're here tonight to honor automotive excellence.
The overall balance of the car was perfect. The engine specifications, the exterior, the interior design, the brake performance, shocks, you name it, it's there. This car stood out like a jewel.
Unfortunately, even our judges didn't get a chance to drive this gem, but you'll get your opportunity when the highly anticipated GT4 hits the streets.